Look at this pond. Most people see this and think one thing: pond scum. Something that needs to be cleaned, removed, poisoned, eradicated. Every summer, municipalities spend millions spraying chemicals to kill what's growing here. Property owners rake it out and throw it away like garbage. But what if I told you that what you're looking at isn't pond scum at all? What if I told you this is the most powerful survival food on Earth? A plant that contains more protein than beef, grows faster than anything else in the plant kingdom, and could theoretically feed the entire human population using less than 1% of Earth's surface? What if I told you it doubles its mass every 24 hours, requires no soil, no fertilizer, no pesticides, and can be harvested daily without ever replanting? And what if I told you that the reason you've never heard of it is because it represents an existential threat to a $100 billion food industry that profits from scarcity, from control, from keeping you dependent on their supply chains? This is the story of duckweed, Lunda minor, the plant they don't want you to know about. Let's start with what this actually is, because everything you think you know is probably wrong. Duckweed is not algae. It's the smallest flowering plant on Earth, each frond measuring just 2 to 5 millimeters across, barely visible to the naked eye. What appears as a solid green mat is actually millions of individual plants, each one complete, capable of reproduction and nutrient absorption. It's been floating on Earth's waters for 70 million years, performing one of nature's most elegant survival strategies: rapid multiplication combined with maximum nutritional density. And for most of human history, people knew this. Ancient cultures harvested it, ate it, cultivated it deliberately. In Thailand, it's called Phak Kai Nam, water vegetable, and appears in soups and stir-fries. In parts of China and Vietnam, it's been intentionally cultivated in rice paddies for centuries. But in the Western world, it was systematically erased from the category of food and reclassified as nuisance aquatic vegetation. The question you should be asking is, why? When duckweed is dried and analyzed, the results are almost absurd. By dry weight, duckweed is approximately 40 to 45% protein. Read that again. 45%. Higher than beef, higher than chicken, higher than soybeans, which the entire industrial protein industry is built upon. But it gets stranger. Most plant proteins are incomplete. They lack one or more of the 9 essential amino acids humans cannot synthesize. Meat contains all 9, which is why it's considered the gold standard. But so does duckweed. It contains histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, and valine, all 9 in ratios that match or exceed WHO recommendations. This is almost unheard of in plants. Quinoa has it, soy has it, and duckweed, except duckweed grows 100 times faster than quinoa and doesn't require the industrial processing that soy demands. But protein is just the beginning. Duckweed contains omega-3 fatty acids, the same fats found in fish oil that sell for $50 per bottle. It contains beta-carotene comparable to carrots. Vitamin B12, extremely rare in plants, appears in certain species. Calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium. In every measurable way, duckweed is a complete food. You could theoretically survive on it alone, which is more than can be said for almost any other single food source, including meat. So why isn't this marketed as the superfood of the century? Why isn't it in health food stores next to spirulina that costs $30 for a tiny jar? Because you can't patent it. You can't own it. You can't create dependency. And you can't make money from something anyone can grow infinitely for free. Now let's talk about growth rate, because this is where duckweed becomes an existential threat to industrial agriculture. Duckweed is the fastest growing flowering plant on the planet. Under optimal conditions, a single plant reproduces asexually, budding off daughter plants every 16 to 48 hours. This is vegetative reproduction. No pollination needed. No seeds. No partner. It simply clones itself, and each clone immediately begins cloning. Let's run the numbers. Start with 1 plant. 24 hours, 2. Day 3, 8. Day 7, 128. By day 10, over 1,000 plants. By day 15, over 30,000. By day 20, over 1 million from that single starting organism. This is exponential growth in its purest form. You don't plant and wait months for harvest. You don't have growing seasons. you have a perpetual harvest. Every single day, skim 30 to 50% of your mat, and within 48 hours, it completely regenerates. This is the infinite harvest, food that never depletes, never requires replanting, and accelerates as the colony grows. Context: a single acre of conventional farmland produces 40 bushels of soybeans per year after months of growth, requiring tractors, fuel, pesticides, and intensive labor. That same acre converted to a shallow pond seeded with duckweed could produce over 100 tons of protein-rich biomass per year with daily harvests and virtually zero inputs. The productivity difference isn't marginal. It's 10 to 50 times more productive per unit of land, depending on conditions. And it requires no soil depletion, no fertilizer runoff, no pesticides, no erosion, no fossil fuels, and no genetic modification. So why isn't this revolutionizing food production? Because revolutions that can't be monetized get suppressed. The global protein industry is worth approximately $100 billion annually. Entire economies are built on the premise that protein is scarce, difficult to produce, requires massive infrastructure. Beef requires 18 months to bring an animal from birth to slaughter, thousands of gallons of water per pound, vast land for grazing, antibiotics, growth hormones, industrial processing. Even plant-based alternatives like soy require months of growth, industrial harvesting, heavy processing. The entire food system is predicated on protein being hard, expensive, requiring expertise and capital only large corporations can provide. And then there's duckweed, growing in a plastic tray, doubling daily, requiring nothing, available to anyone, free, forever. You can't patent duckweed. It's 70 million years old, public domain of nature. You can't create proprietary strains like Monsanto does with GMO crops. Duckweed just clones itself infinitely from the original culture. You can't build supply chain dependency because anyone can start a culture from literally any pond. This is what makes duckweed dangerous. It's not just better protein. It's protein that exists outside control structures that make food profitable. It represents food sovereignty in its purest form, complete self-sufficiency, no dependence on corporations, supply chains, anything except sunlight and water. And if you profit by controlling protein supply, that's not an innovation. That's an existential threat to be neutralized. So how do you neutralize a plant? You can't make it illegal. It grows wild everywhere. You can't kill it globally. It's too resilient. What you do is control the narrative. Reclassify it from food to nuisance. Fund studies emphasizing problems. Make sure it never appears in nutritional databases, never gets mentioned in agricultural programs. Look at what happened with industrial aquaculture research in the 1970s. Multiple universities began studying duckweed as high-protein feed for fish farms and livestock. The results were extraordinary. Fish-fed duckweed grew faster and healthier. Chickens showed improved weight gain. Pigs thrived. This should have revolutionized animal feed. The livestock industry spends billions on feed. A free, infinitely renewable alternative should have been implemented immediately. Instead, funding dried up. Studies stopped. Scientists found grant requests denied. And when you search for duckweed today, what you find overwhelmingly are sites explaining how to kill it. The herbicide industry makes millions selling chemicals to kill duckweed. You have to scroll past dozens of how to kill it articles before finding a single mention it's edible. When duckweed does appear in sustainable agriculture discussions, there's always a caveat. Difficult to process. May contain heavy metals. More research needed. These aren't lies, but they're framed to discourage. Yes, it requires drying, with a food dehydrator or sun. Yes, it accumulates heavy metals, making it great for cleaning polluted water. Every obstacle is solvable with existing, cheap technology. And the most insidious tactic, silence. Agricultural curriculum barely mentions duckweed. Future farmers graduate without knowing it exists as food. FDA databases don't include it, making it difficult to legally market. It's trapped in regulatory limbo, not illegal, but not recognized. Invisible. This is how you kill a revolution. You make it invisible. You make it disgusting. You make it forgotten. But here's what they don't want you to realize. Duckweed doesn't just feed people. It cleans water. Duckweed absorbs nitrogen, phosphorus, heavy metals at extraordinary rates. It's a green machine for water remediation. Agricultural runoff causes massive algae blooms that create dead zones. The Gulf of Mexico dead zone covers over 8,000 square miles, caused by fertilizer runoff. Conventional solutions involve expensive treatment facilities and hoping farmers reduce fertilizer use. Or introduce duckweed. It absorbs excess nutrients, prevents algae blooms, shades the surface. Then harvest it, removing pollutants entirely, and use it as animal feed, closing the nutrient loop. This is permaculture. The problem is the solution. The waste is the resource. The pollutant becomes protein. Several programs prove this works. Bangladesh cultivates duckweed in ponds receiving rice paddy runoff. It cleans water and feeds fish and chickens. In China, urban wastewater passes through duckweed ponds, removing 90% of nitrogen and phosphorus while producing harvestable biomass. So why isn't this implemented globally? Because solving water pollution cheaply doesn't generate revenue. Because producing free protein threatens food corporations. Every solution duckweed represents threatens an industry profiting from the problem continuing. Let's talk about using this plant, because it is legal to grow and consume. They just made sure you never thought about it. Growing duckweed is absurdly easy. Container, water, starter culture from any pond or online for a few dollars. Fill with dechlorinated water. Set in sunlight. It begins multiplying immediately. Within a week, begin harvesting. Skim 30 to 50%. Rinse thoroughly. The biggest concern, critical, is water quality. Duckweed absorbs whatever is in water, including heavy metals. For consumption, use clean water, not roadside ditches or urban ponds. Grow yourself in filtered or rainwater, or collect from remote ponds and test for heavy metals. Once harvested, use fresh in smoothies or dry for storage. Spread on dehydrator trays at 110 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Dries in 8 to 12 hours. Brine dried duckweed into powder. Intensely green, like spirulina. Store in airtight containers for months. This powder is 40% protein. Add to smoothies, soups, bread, energy bars. 1 tablespoon provides 6 grams complete protein plus vitamins and minerals. Taste is mild, slightly grassy. Mixed into flavored foods, essentially undetectable. Economics. A tote producing duckweed replaces $50 supplement bottles monthly, indefinitely, with no ongoing cost. Let me show you something disturbing. Right now, 828 million people are undernourished. Children die from protein deficiency. And simultaneously, we spray herbicides to kill a plant that could produce enough protein to feed every human using less than 1% of surface water. This is an exaggeration. Studies calculate duckweed's carrying capacity. The numbers are absurd in their abundance. A hectare of duckweed produces 10 to 15 tons dry matter annually. At 40% protein, that's 4 to 6 tons pure protein per hectare per year. Soybeans, 1 ton protein per hectare. Beef, 50 kilograms. Duckweed, 4 to 6 tons. The productivity difference isn't marginal. And it requires no deforestation, topsoil, fertilizer synthesis, pesticides, fossil fuels, or animal suffering. The technology to end protein scarcity has existed 70 million years. It's floating on ponds right now, multiplying exponentially, asking nothing except recognition. Instead, we've built a $100 billion industry around artificial scarcity, making protein dependent on systems extracting maximum profit from human need. We've convinced populations that protein is expensive, complex, requires massive industrial intervention. And we've erased from consciousness that one of the most productive protein sources grows wild, reproduces fastest, and is available to anyone free. There's something haunting about standing next to a pond covered in duckweed. You're looking at exponential abundance. Millions of plants containing complete protein, growing faster than almost anything alive, asking for nothing. You're looking at a solution to malnutrition, water pollution, food insecurity, agricultural destruction. You're looking at something here longer than humans, that will outlast us, that survived mass extinctions. And you're looking at something powerful interests worked hard to make you see as pond scum. Because if millions realized they could produce protein indefinitely with sunlight and water, implications would be catastrophic for industries built on scarcity. This is how empires fall, not through revolution, but irrelevance, not force, but better alternatives making old systems obsolete. Duckweed is that alternative, growing quietly, multiplying exponentially, waiting in every pond. Ready. The question isn't whether duckweed can feed the world, it's whether we'll let it, whether we'll recognize abundance floating right in front of us. The gatekeepers count on you seeing pond scum. They count on disgust, conditioning, the assumption that if something were valuable, someone would be selling it. But some powerful things can't be sold. Sunlight, rain, seeds, systems that run themselves. Duckweed is one. That's exactly why they want you never looking twice. But now you know, and knowing changes everything. The infinite harvest is waiting.